Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture. Today we are going to learn about incremental load in Informatica. Before we proceed to the hands-on, let's quickly discuss what exactly is incremental load, what is a full load, and what is the advantage and when both these types of loads are used. So, in the field of data, there's a lot of challenges coming up these days for the data warehouse designers, ETL developers, that the data is growing very at large scale. There's tons of data generated every month, every quarter. So you cannot go and load redundant data into a data warehouse because it will eventually make your data mining and all the querying much slower, which is actually not desired. So what technology and or you can say a, a method the data warehouse designers came up and developed is incremental load or delta load. As the name suggests, it simply means whatever changes are happening at the source, that is a delta, is being captured and that is loaded into your data warehouse. So let's explain it with a example. Suppose we have a student table. In the student table, these are the different columns. That is serial, that is an auto increment, name, city, and a last modified date. In the real time project, you will see last modified date or last create date and these type of things. A timestamp is being appended in each of the dimension tables. So what happens in a real project? Whenever a data warehouse is being designed, the first load, the first load into your data mart or data warehouse is going to be a full load. That simply means a whole data dump. So suppose I have a data of a hospitality chain, some hotel, and I want all the records from 2010 to 2020 to be dumped for the first time into my data warehouse, into my target tables. So the first load will be a full load. Now suppose the full load happened today, that is on 29th. Now after 1 week there must be some new data coming up into your source tables. Now when my batch is running weekly, I don't want all the records from the past 10 years to be loaded again because that will be a redundant data and that will impact the performance of my data mining. What I will do, I will capture only those records which were added in the last 1 week. If your batch runs weekly or monthly, then you have to capture all the records which were uh, loaded in the last 1 week or last 1 month. So let's simply see here. I have created a table and let's insert these data. So I have added few data here. Let's see how the data looks. Okay, so here you see I have added few users, their city, and the last modified date, that is of the current month, that is 1st of November, 10th, and 25th. Now if I see, I'm going to load this data into the data warehouse for the first time. So this is going to be a full load. Let's quickly go and navigate into the Informatica mapping. I've already created the mapping. The mapping is quite simple. So I've imported this Oracle table here, which is the same structure. I'm using a filter, an expression transformation, and loading into the target. For using the incremental load, we use the concept of Informatica mapping variables. So I have created a mapping variable that is a daily date. Okay, and its aggregation is set to maximum, and it's a date time type of data type. And the initial value, like I was giving the example, I want to load the 10 years of record of data for a hotel from 2010. So in my example, for making it a bit simple for you guys, I have taken the data of 1st of January of 2020. Now what happens, all the data coming up from 1st of January 2020 will be loaded into my data warehouse. So if you see all the records after 1st of January, that is, it's quite obvious that all these records are of November, that will be automatically loaded. See? Okay. So this particular mapping variable is utilized to store the maximum date. Suppose if you go here and this batch runs, what is the maximum date? You see, 25th of November. So all data till 25th of November will be loaded into the data warehouse. After that, when this data loading process ends, this maximum date is somewhat stored here. So this will be a variable which will store the value. Next time when the data will come up from suppose 26th of Jan or 26th of November, 27th of November, any data beyond 25th of November, it will be loaded accordingly, but not anything before 25th of November. How? Let's see the filter transformation. See, I have given the last modified date, that is, all the records which are created after 25th of November will be loaded once this process is done. For the first time load, that is the full increment, it will use the default value of the mapping variable, that is 1st of Jan 2020. That is the starting of this year. So when the first time when the full load is being done, subsequent runs will have the values stored here in the mapping variable, and you will compare for each run with the last modified date. Anything which is greater than the last run date, that is the daily date, I am using a word here, daily date, if I am running the job daily, then it will be stored here, and in that case you can easily move forward. Now where the values are being stored, it's particularly done in a expression transformation. So this step you have to remember whenever you are using a mapping variable, that is the set maximum variable. So any date or value which is greater in these two will be stored in your parameter. Okay, so every day whenever the frequency, as per the frequency monthly or daily it will run, it will be stored in this daily date. So all the dates, whenever it scan in each run, it will scan all the date and the maximum date will be stored here, and when the next batch will run, it will automatically compare the next load with the last run's daily date. So I think now it's quite understood to you guys that how this particular incremental load is working. So now we will go and run and understand the aspects of incremental load. So if you see, this is the first time we are going to run it, so it will be a full load. So it's running here, it is having 3 records. Now we see we have 3 records written into the target. Let's go and check the target. If you see, we have 3 records, 1, 2, 3, John, Mike and Peter, and the dates at 1st of November, 10th and 25th of November. Now if I go and run this job again, so Do you think is it going to write something? Let's see. Obviously, no. Because if you see the data, for the first time run, it has already written all the three records. And the variable, mapping variable, has already stored this value. So now, anything which is greater, any record which is having the last modified date greater than 25th of November will be added to the data warehouse. And how we can check? You have to go to the session properties, go and view persistent values. Now if you see, it is having 25th of November. And if you see the data, even after running 2 times, it's having only the first full load data. That is the first run. Now let me add a new data. Let's add the record of David. Okay. So now if you see, David is being added and it is a new record. It's a delta record. That is, if a job runs, it will identify on the basis of the last modified date that David is the new record, and I don't want to write John, Mike and Peter again. I just want to capture David. So let's go and run this. So if you see, it has 4 records read and only 1 record written. Let's go here, refresh and check the output. Looks great. Now the only increment record, that is David, is now being added to the target file. And if you go over here and check the persistent values, now if you see, the record is now 30th of November, though it is hypothetical because it's 29 itself. But now for all the subsequent runs, it will fetch and write all the values which are greater than 30th of November. So in this manner, we are capturing all the delta records from a source system. So remember, the first load is always going to be a full load, and all the subsequent runs of the job is going to be a delta load or an incremental load. I hope it makes clear. I have tried to explain in the best manner. If you still have any doubts, please do comment and let me know. Till then, happy learning.